In America, bankers and India builders are not respected, right? We are always at least in your movies, we and politicians are always the goondas.
So when you buy your first house, it is wiser to buy something smaller, something you can afford, something you can pay off the loans of.
One simple fact, what I would always tell customers is if whatever your loan amount is, 1/3 to 40% maximum of your whatever monthly earnings should go to your EMI.
I find that thought very scary. You're giving away 1/3 of your earnings to this, and then you're taking a 20-30 year EMI. Question, especially with AI coming. I don't even know if I'm going to have a job in like 10 years.
Take a look at 2007-8 pay. The developers who are number 1, number 2 in the country, a lot of them are bankrupt today because the government's changed. Then the next set of government came with different rules. I'm not telling this government is bad or that government is bad. But what I'm saying is if you need better quality of life, you need consistent policy.
Give me one insight you have that nobody in real estate believes you on. Like something that you're completely taking the opposite stance to your industry. Ladies and gentlemen, we have another podcast for you today. And today I'm with Ajitesh Kurupulu. He runs Ashoka Builders. And there's a reason I have you here, which is that, and we were discussing this offline, $200+ billion in 2025 of India's exports are going to be IT exports. And the question is not about when, the question is not about if, but the question is when all of this gets automated. The debate is it going to get automated in 1 year? Is it going to get automated in 5 years? Is it going to get automated in 20 years? Nobody knows. But we do know it's going to happen in our lifetime. Or at least, even if not complete automation, it's going to be a thinning of the force. So the question and the reason I have you here is because I've been studying what comes after automation. Because it's not, the automation is not going to hit engineers like me only. It's going to hit everyone who uses a computer. Eventually, when robotics come, it's going to hit everyone that drives a car. It's going to hit everyone that does any work with their hands, with any labor, right? Yeah. So it's a question of when and not if. So I think that as I was studying this, I realized that there are two systems, right? The first system is capitalism. The other system is socialism. I feel like both are incompatible with the future that's coming. But there's a third system. And this entire system, this is practiced in Europe back in the day. It's called feudalism, where everything was centered around land. Because it turns out that while AI can definitely create havoc on the stock market, it can certainly change, which new competitor wins because they're now using, these cost advantages that come from AI. AI cannot create new land, right? And maybe there'll be 200, 300 years later, there'll be a way for AI to create new planets or terraform new planets. But that's not happening anytime soon. So I am very bullish on the idea of buying, owning, and preserving land, and obviously adding infra around that land so it's not just barren land. And I wanted to discuss my thoughts, whether I'm on the right path, whether I'm on the wrong path, where the future of buying and owning and even renting real estate is going to go in the next few years. And I want to get someone on who I thought was an expert at this and get their ideas. But I didn't want to get the average real estate person because no offense to your business, but the average real estate person is like, 3 gold chains.
Yeah. We are gold lovers.
Long flowing kurta, and they're always like, invest here, you'll make money. I got you on because sure, you've been in real estate. You come, you've been in this ecosystem for a very long time, but also you studied math and philosophy, right? So, and in our conversation offline, you're always, you're still very much a forward-looking human, right? You're still thinking about the future. So, and you're not saying it was always like this in the past, therefore it's going to be like this. You have that open-mindedness that this is where it's going to go. So I got you on because I think you understand this better than anybody else, and I have a lot of curious questions, and some of them will be smart, some of them will be, that doesn't make sense, Varun, but feel free to, cut me off if you feel some questions don't make sense, because real estate, I don't know much about, but I have been buying it for the last couple of years. And especially now, we've moved to North Bangalore, we're in Hyderabad now, and further north, a lot of the property has been appreciating like crazy. It makes no sense. Like,
I hope you purchased in North Bangalore only.
I did.
That's a good growing suburb.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? Like, everyone says the stock market will always perform better, but if you look at the property price in North Bangalore versus the stock market, it's no comparison, right? It's just, I'm like, wait, maybe you're not investing in the right places and stuff like that. But I'm not the right person to give that advice. So I got you on for just to learn more, and I want to start off with the question of your background. Like, why did you even get into real estate?
So Varun, firstly, Thank you for having me here, and I'm super excited to talk with you and connect with your audience, and particularly, talking about real estate and tech. Right, this is the sort of real estate is seen as one of the earliest sort of industry, and tech is the latest baby. It's like the oldest is shaking hands with the youngest, right? So, super excited to talk about real estate and tech. But yeah, so a little bit about myself. I come from a real estate family background. So my dad was one of the founder of Ashoka Builders, one of the oldest developer company in Hyderabad. So from very young, I was exposed to our business, like just simple things of going to site and probably like after school, my driver used to pick me up and we used to drop off my dad's lunch and go home. So simple things like that I was exposed to, okay, what sort of things happen in the room, meeting rooms, kya hota hai site pe, and what are different challenges and all of that. So I had that curiosity, and during period of time when I was doing my undergrad and all, so during summers I used to go to office a little more frequently, so I was exposed to little depth of the business problems, right? So that's how I started my journey, right? And then after I finishing my undergrad, I did an economics with a minor in math and few courses in philosophy, which was frankly the most interesting in all these three. But yeah, after that I came back, worked with my dad for 3 years, and then we developed creative differences, and then I set up ASBL along with my partner Anil in 2017. So, but right from the word go, I was more curious in what sort of, how can real estate be impacted if we are data first, right? Because see, real estate again is with, I've seen my dad and his peer group also, they had best of the best intentions when it come to, fulfilling their obligations, right? But most of the times then they could only finish a certain percentage of what their obligations were. So that's when I realized that it's not intentions, you need intelligence. And for any intelligence, what do you need? You need data. And for data, to consistently collect data on a day in, day out scale, you need applications, you need tech suites, so that as people do transactions on it, data gets collected. So that's the sort of approach with which we wanted to look at the real estate, our worldview of real estate was. So that's how our journey started. And yeah, and coming back to the way you started the conversation, yes, this is the only, I would say, product which cannot be manufactured, at least for a good amount of our lifetime and maybe in the next 10 generations lifetime, if at all human species has 10 generations. But yeah, so yes, land cannot be manufactured, and whereas now with AI and probably AI merging with robotics in probably next decade or whatever, a lot of the things can be manufactured and they will be abundantly available, right? So that way real estate is something which cannot be manufactured, and I feel a lot of the younger generation understands real estate a lot lesser than what they understand with equities or other asset categories, right? So one of my objective is also to spread awareness on how to diagnose real estate. It's a very mythical, over a period of time it's become sort of almost like a myth, right? So people, like, let's say you ask any a person in probably 25 to 35 or 40 age group how to invest in a stock or a different asset class like that, like cryptos or something, they can give you some sort of logic. Okay, this is a logic, you can see maybe last year sales, profit, P by E, and then this is where you go and get data. You seldom have such conversation around real estate. Like real estate investment, typically people do, okay, my brother invested, my cousin invested, 10 of us are investing. Well, that really doesn't add to any safety. If the Titanic hits the iceberg, it really doesn't matter if you have a bunch of relatives going in it. You're not going to get any special lifeboat, right? Doesn't happen that way. But fortunately, over the last 2-3 years, a lot of things have happened on the data side of real estate, right? Which generally people are not very aware of, because it's not spoken a lot. Now you can simply go to any RERA website. Let's say you're in Bangalore, you can go to Bangalore RERA or karnatakarera.in or .com, and pin code by pin code, it has all the data of what's all the supply like. By supply, I mean, okay, how many 2 bedrooms are coming, how many 3 bedrooms, and when they will be handed over, by which developer. Iske hisab se you can build out a pura supply equation. Okay, in this neighborhood, this is the amount of housing supply which is coming with so and so builder. Then you can categorize them. In fact, you can just take a download and dump it in any of your generative AIs, and they can summarize it for you. So just by this sheer thing, you can see that you can simply understand the supply, and your investment can happen in line with the supply. right? So it's tools like this which people are not aware of. Hence, real estate is becoming more and more of an enigma. And you see a lot of younger age group moving to other asset classes.
Interesting. I want to touch upon that question of buy versus rent, right? Because I think 2 years, 3 years, we had all the financial influencers come out and say buying is useless. Renting is the most important thing because you can just, if you have extra money, put that money in the stock market and it'll grow faster. And of course, you're living in a rented house and you can always be kicked out and whatnot. And examples were given of billionaires and this and that, of course, for whom the rules are totally different. So do you have a thesis on buying versus renting?
So one, this has to be explained in a various like multi-layered stuff, right? So first and foremost, you look at all the big billionaires of the world. In fact, Bill Gates is one of the biggest he's the biggest landowner of America, right? Jeff Bezos, I think, is the biggest single land holding. If it's one chunk, he's the owner of that in somewhere in Texas. So a lot of people are putting their money in real estate. But again, as you said, the rules are different for billionaires and for different sections of people, right? So in the buy versus rent, it's very simple. So in your 20s, right? And you see a lot of content also and a lot of news articles also which say Gen Zs are not buying homes. Well, frankly, Gen Zs cannot buy homes.
Can't afford it.
Can't afford it, right? So when in your 20s, it can be Gen Zs, millennials, or maybe boomers, or any person in their 20s, you can't afford real estate versus investing in like equities or something where you can enter with low entry cost, right? 10,000 rupees you have, you can simply open a demat account and go start participating in that. In real estate, at least in, let's say, the top 7 or 8 cities of the country, which is where majority of the real estate play happens, right? Almost 75 to 80% of real estate market happens in the 7 to 8 cities only, right? So there you need anywhere around 15 to 20 lakhs of money as a 20 lakhs assume 20 lakh rupees you need as a barrier to entry, down payment, and then you need to be making a sort of a salary of anywhere around a minimum of 12 lakhs to 12 lakhs se start hota hai, right? So this is the entry cost to enter into real estate. Now naturally when you are in your 20s, then it's very simple, you have to rent for 2 reasons. One, in your 20s your job is also more mobile, right? You after the college, it's not like the first job you got and you're going to settle there and probably do that for the next 30 years. You're figuring out, so you're more mobile. So there's no point of buying a house when you're more mobile. But as you come to 30s, right, and as family life starts, in fact, I would say the real threat to real estate or buying houses has got nothing to do with age and which generation you belong to. It's the family life. Let's say the family structure changes. If people are not marrying, then I think the fundamentally buying patterns will change. But so as long as there's that sociological change is not happening, right? So it's fine. So as you're in your 30s, what happens? You're married and then you're planning for your first child. At this time, you want more stability, right? So real estate even offers that sort of stability value, right? Which is typically not talked about in most of these most of these conversations, because how do you even attribute a value to it? Like for me, stability might be X rupees, for you 3X rupees. But one thing we can assume is once people start marrying and once people marry and they plan for kids, that's when the demand for space of your own goes up. So I would say, and in fact even patterns also, of buying patterns, if you see pan India, most people are buying their first home in their early to mid 30s and then going on for an upgrade in their 40 to, I would say 45-ish. So 2 houses is what the pattern is mainly looking like for, I would say, the top 1.5 percentile of the economy. In fact, most people who are buying organized real estate are the 2 percentile of the economy. In that section, people are no longer buying 1 house per lifetime. It's currently moved to 2.
So when you buy your first house, it is wiser to buy something smaller, something you can afford, something you can pay off the loans off, because you anyway think that most people will, the data says that most people upgrade 10, 20 years later anyway.
Yes. Yeah, see again, one simple fact what I would always tell customers is if whatever your loan amount is, it shouldn't be more than 30 to 40, 1/3 of your earnings, monthly earnings. So that's the extent to which you can go and buy a house. If let's say you are somebody making a lot more money, then naturally you can play in accordance with that. So 1/3 to 40% maximum of your whatever monthly earnings should go to your EMI.
I find that maybe because I'm an entrepreneur, I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I find that thought very scary, that you're giving away 1/3 of your earnings to this and then you're taking a 20, 30 year EMI, because question, especially with AI coming, I don't even know if I'm going to have a job in like 10 years. I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about everybody, right? 20, 30 years, how are people going to pay off their EMIs? So I just feel like with all that instability
and uncertainty, how are you betting it 20 years, right? So even if you look at statistics, most of the people take 20-year home loans. Why? Because your month-on-month EMI is lower. Let's say you take like a 7-year home loan. But you look at the average time which people are taking to pay off these home loans, it's 7 years. So though people are taking 20-year home loans, what the time they're taking to pay it off is 7 years.
So they're taking 20 years more for security and safety.
Security, and your monthly outflow is less, right? Let's say you take a 7-year home loan, your monthly outflow is going to go 3x, right? In proportion to that. Of course, you'll be paying less interest, but your EMI is going to be much, much higher. So that's one thing. And second thing is, like, just like any other asset, home also appreciates. Now, when we talk about home appreciation, generally people say, okay, the best years are currently, probably you look from post-pandemic, we've been doing exceptionally well, where things are appreciating somewhere around 10%, at least most of the micro markets in all major cities. But let me tell a little very less understood math around home investing, right? How people can make 18 to 20% CAGR, right? 18 to 20% CAGR if the home appreciates at a 6.5 to 6.7%. So I'll explain it in detail because this is something which is not very well understood, right? Let's say you bought a home at 100 rupees, right? Most of the homes you pay 15% down payment, that is 15 rupees, and rest 85 rupees you take a bank loan. So mind you, when you're buying a under construction property, the bank loan will not be given in its entirety to the developer, right? That 85 rupees is spread. Let's say you're buying right at the beginning, right? And which is what I would recommend, that's my recommendation, for people who want to make money by investing, like flipping and making money, right? So you buy upon when the work starts, and then once the project reaches annual, let's assume that's a 4-year cycle. So 15 rupees you need to do a down payment, and 85 rupees the bank will be paying on your behalf to the developer over the rest 4 years. So let's assume, for an easy calculation, divided by 4. Every year probably the bank is paying 20%. Right, based on the construction. Now, for that you borrowed money currently at 8.5%, right? Let's say the property has appreciated at 6.7%, and that I'm taking for 6.5% is the inflation in the country. So let's say in real terms the appreciation is 0, right? In notional terms, right, you're simply running at the pace of inflation, which is 6.5%. Right now, 6.5% compounded for 4 years, you're going to land at 1.3. That is, your 100 rupee becomes 130 rupees. Now, on that day, you're selling off your property, right? Now, when you sell off your property that day, let's debit the liabilities. First and foremost, you borrowed 85 rupees from the bank, you need to pay that. So 130, say you remove 85, you're landing at what? 45. For these 4 years, depending on the amount of money which is dispersed from the bank, only to that component, which might be 15, 20, 30% year on year, for that you're paying the EMI, right? You're paying the interest, sorry, not the EMI, the interest. That again approximately summates to another 15 rupees. So from 45 you remove that 15, you're left with 30. You invested with 15. So that's doubling your money in 4 years. So that is 19.1% CAGR. So very seldom people don't see real estate in this format. I mean, it's not been told. That's why they're not generally aware of this. Now, of course, everything can't be so rosy. What are some of the risks in this? See, some of the risks is if the developer is probably not finishing on time. Instead of 4 years, it's gone for 6 years. Then you're in big soup. Now the question is, where can you pull out data which can give you a reasonable understanding that, okay, this is going to happen. Developer performance, right? Where do you get this data? Simple, you go to a developer's website. All developers have past projects. Look at the past projects and look at the current project. Let's say past the developer has built, I don't know, maybe standalone buildings, and now he's talking about a 30-floor building. So your risk quotient should go up because the know-how will not be there, right? Let's say somebody has built commercial buildings and now suddenly residential. Risk quotient go up. Somebody has built like 30-floor building, this is like a 40-floor. Okay, there's only 5-10% variance, right? And next you figure in the supply equation from the RERA website. So this way you can make this entire thing more quantitative, and whereby you can minimize the risk, or you can have a much better forecast. So these are some ways how people can make money. And probably in our older generation, right, people have invested in lands, and which I feel that day and age is over for at least most part of South and West India, where land.
They're not investing in land anymore.
Investing in land content, I think the industrialization is done. See, I'll tell you what happens with land investments. Let's say you invested in a land, empty barren land, it will cost you nothing. probably the valuation of that is more to the tune of what is the agricultural yield which is going to come, a certain multiple above that. Let's say I'm a farmer, I'm on a 1 acre piece of land, I might be earning like couple of lakhs a year, and if the land doesn't have a good road, nothing, then maybe you have come to buy that land. Okay, I'm going to make 2 lakhs. If I have to sell it to you, maybe I'll factor in next 5 years ka probably value like earnings and then discount it and earn it. Maybe I'll sell it to you for 5 lakhs. Then the road comes, right? Naturally, the usage goes up. Because the road comes, the density also, matlab more and more people are commuting to that area, right? So more will be the demand, more people commuting to the area, matlab okay, somebody will want to put a petrol bunk because more vehicles are going. Now petrol bunk aa gaya, then somebody will put just beside it some store. Like that, the density goes up. As density goes up, value goes up. So in pre-industrialized, I would say states, right? Naturally, this road has not yet come. So there you go buy land and wait for 20 years, you will most likely have a 100x return, which was what the
100x over 20
100x over 20 years. So 10 times in 10x, 10 times in 10 years is 24% CAGR. So yeah, I would say 100x in 20 years is like 24% CAGR straight for 20 years. But
still pre-industrial area you're talking about.
Yeah, probably some parts of north of India. South mein, I think most parts of South are well industrialized. So that road wala story is done. Because the road is done, the factory is done, the shops are done. That 100x stories are not there. South and parts of West. But if you look one generation behind, probably to our parents' generation, every household, most of the households have this story where they invested right when our fathers started working, they just bought a piece of land. And then by the time now they're retiring, that's a major part of their wealth portfolio. Many households have the stories, right, where they got that crazy return. I think for our generation, that is done. In the South, maybe if people are still want to hunt, there will be those sort of opportunities available in the North, areas which are less industrialized. So that's the way you can make money by investing in land as well.
Okay, let's say what if we get to the point where everything is totally automated? Now we're doing like future.
See, I hear this question a lot, yeah.
Right? What if everything is totally automated? Like robots are driving cars.
We will buy a house.
Yeah, like the question is if you knew that in 10 years. Actually, first let's talk about the decisions you take today if you knew everything was getting on. Let's say in 10 years, there's a hypothetical scenario where 90% of jobs are automated. I'm very sure 100% of jobs will not be automated. There'll always be some big section of jobs. And people believe this is no way this is going to happen or whatever, but actually it's already like that. Like some 80% of India lives on less than 7,000 rupees a month. This is like 2016, I think Mariwala had written this.
Okay.
Less than 7,500 rupees a month they live in. Like some 70-80% of India lives on that number, right?
At least now though it's a billion people, 65, 70%, yeah.
75?
They're like a billion people in India, their average household incomes are around 70 to 80,000 rupees, which is essentially 6
per annum.
Yeah, per annum.
Which is, for a lot of people watching this, that's shocking, right? Because they're like, well, how am I going to live on 6,000 rupees a month? But that's most of India. You are actually the exception if you find that shocking. But the truth is, it can happen to anybody. It can happen to you also. Your cushy job that you're doing today, you could go back and have to live on 6,000-7,000 rupees a month. Now, let's take the unfortunate scenario, because I always like thinking pessimistic first, then I will always come to the optimistic. Because look, there's always an optimistic path, but it's best to cover your bases, right? Do the stuff that...
Yeah, get the basics.
Get survival in order. Let's say you had a job now, and you think there's 5 years, 10 years to go before, real automation kicks in and takes some of it away. What are the investment decisions you'd make now with regards to real estate? Would you buy land? Because I read online that if you want to feed a family of 4 and you need to farm, you need about an acre, right? And that covers an entire vegetarian diet. It won't cover a non-vegetarian diet because you need to then rear animals. And for those that think this is crazy listening to all this, I mean, just go down Bangalore, down the street, there'll be a poultry farm, right? It's a common thing. It's just invisible to us, so we act like this is not going to happen. But what are the decisions you'd make today?
See, if that's a world where if all jobs are most likely going to end, then yeah, I'll probably make sure I own a land and be able to provide the basic food, basic means of life.
What about an apartment?
Buy an apartment again. See, definitely, yeah, I'll do that also, right? Because more than having a land, an apartment will give me a little more better comfort. So at least I don't have to worry. Like today, apartments relatively in such a world, right? If I don't have a job, I still need shelter. See, again, the basics of life, right? Roti, makan, kapada, what they say. Even why are we telling we want to buy a land so we can have some shelter and plow some food so that we can feed ourselves.
Correct.
And then, so these three will be fundamental essentials, right? So yeah, be it, of course, if I have less money, I'll buy a land. If I have more money, then I'll buy an apartment, even more money, a bungalow or things like that. Yeah.
But your land is the cheapest?
It depends on context, right? Let's say in city, naturally land is way more expensive.
So give me the math. Let's say Bangalore. Do you have a rough idea of the prices?
I can tell you.
So let's say if I wanted to buy 1 acre of land, like we said, 1 acre you need for about family of 4, right? Seeds and all we'll be able to figure out. How much does 1 acre of land in Bangalore
Let's say in
cost?
this area, right? This Hebal and this area, I presume it costs somewhere around 12 to 15 crore an acre.
So 12 crores an acre here. And this is farmland.
Urban land you can consume because ideally if you're buying this land, I mean, farming is never going to yield you anything. But yeah, a land in this area.
Why wouldn't it yield you anything?
See, you simply you bought a piece of land and you did some farming on it. Let's say you put paddy. Paddy you can put 2 times a year and each paddy crop per acre gives you around 60,000 rupees. Right, into 1,20,000 is your revenue and usme remove at least 50% cost, which can be water, seeds and all of this. 50% is your margin. Matlab 60,000 per year is what you'll make. Let's say you move to cash crops, something more like avocados and things like this. I don't know if they can be grown in the soil here, but if you move to such things, then it goes up to 2, 3, I think the highest being around 3, 4 lakhs. Okay. That's the maximum yield you're going to get from agriculture per acre. So same land I go and probably put a mall or a kirana store or a high-rise apartment, its yield goes up. Today, the reason it's 12 crores here is because I can, as a builder, maybe I can come and build like 50 or 60 homes on top of that. That's the reason it has that value.
Okay, so now tell me if we were to purchase land somewhere far away. Like what's the cheapest I could get land in Bangalore, an acre? Outskirts, let's say.
I think around 25 to 30 lakhs somewhere if you're traveling, let's think a 50 kilometer radius, right? I think 50 kilometer radius you should get around 10 to 20 lakhs ke range mein I think you should be getting.
So about 20 lakhs for an acre and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
And what about, and you can potentially have that 20 lakhs ka farmland there, but still have a building here and then take care of both ways.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of people are doing that, especially, you're living in your cities for your weekday life, I would say.
So 1 BHK in a city or a 2 BHK in a city, small.
2 BHK, 2 to 3 because you'll have kids, right? So for their schools, your weekday office, malls and all, weekends people are migrating out. And I see a reversal of trend for people who have crossed 50. What they are doing is weekdays they are staying in those areas. Weekends they are coming to the city to meet their friends and all. So I see that change after 50. Before 50, your weekday life is in the city. For those of them who can afford, they are having like a farm sort of life, like an hour drive away. That's sort of a trend which picked up a lot these days.
And if you go even further, then
it should further come down, right? Until, of course, if there's another urban center,
what is the cheapest land you can find between Bangalore and Hyderabad? 1 acre.
I think, maybe you should some south of, I think the border of AP and somewhere there, you should be getting around maybe 5 lakhs. 5 to 10 lakhs. I don't think you'll get anything less than, at least if you're, let's say the main highway is there, right? Highway say you're traveling internally, let's say half an hour, then you'll get that 5 lakh range. On highway, I think nothing less than 25 or 50 lakhs.
Very interesting. This is very interesting.
And there's actually a science also. It's called urban spatial economics, which uses integration of geography, economics to predict land prices. Again, it's fairly complicated. I mean, in the past, but now with more and more tools, one of the best tool being Google Maps ka API, right? You can simply search how many restaurants are there in this location. So imagine like this, like a restaurant, an ATM.
You can just put a screenshot of that Google Maps into GPT and be like, and put 5 different screenshots.
Pull out these
and
things.
compare.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
And you're looking for rate of growth. You're looking for change between last year and this year.
So you can just do that.
Like Hebal is really grown.
Yes, and even for the next 5 years, it's probably going to be one of the hottest places in Bangalore. In fact, last year Hebal has done 4.5 million square feet of leasing, commercial leasing. So to put in perspective, most of these IT tech companies, for every 100 square feet, they have 1 employee on the upper side. Average it's around 60, 70, but common area pura laga ke 100 square feet, 1 employee. So million square feet, 10,000 employees. So 4.5 million, matlab 45,000 jobs are going to come in this neighborhood.
And we've only created 300.
So you've contributed to that. So 45,000, and you can think average salary 1 lakh, of course there'll be people less and people way more. So 1 lakh, then you can see a host of how the area is going to evolve out.
So you think Hebbal will become the next?
Hebbal is a good place compared to.
And what about Yelahanka now?
Yelahanka I'm not much aware of because I don't predominantly operate out of Bangalore. But this area I know because I've been coming here frequently. That's how I know relative to other places. But again, Sarjapur and all of them, they're more established neighborhoods. But I think the I would say per capita roads, if you like per square kilometer, the amount of roads you have, I think this area is better. So definitely it will do better. But again, now I think with the metro works going on and all, more and more people will move this way.
And I feel for everything else, there'll be a world of abundance. The only thing that AI cannot produce, and that's why I wanted to bring you on the podcast, is real estate. Only once you have some space that you can live in.
Yeah, see, essentially if it's 1 acre is what's required for a family, then at least like a country like India, we are at land shortage.
Really?
Yeah, see 1 acre matlab kitna 250 acres make a square kilometer and India has 33 lakh square kilometers. So that means 82 crore people you can fit in. You have 140, but again this is a family of 4, right? So yeah, roundabout will be there. But maybe something like Australia has a lot of land. So maybe we can
none of us can afford land in Australia. I have a question for you, right? You said that investing in North Bangalore is a good decision, and I just invested in North Bangalore. Why do you feel so? Like, what are the signals that you're looking at?
See, very simple, right? So North Bangalore your Bangalore as a city is leasing close to 16 to 18 million square feet. 4.5 million is concentrated in North Bangalore, right? So you're going to bare minimum make 45,000 IT jobs in this neighborhood. Next, any city, if you look historically across the world, a city always grows in the direction of faster transportation center. The fastest transportation center is an airport. So the airport is closest to North Bangalore, right? It's in that direction. So all cities always migrate in that direction. And your average infrastructure in this area compared to other parts of Bangalore is much, much better. You have bigger roads, wider roads, and metro connectivity is better. The social infra here is sort of has to get better compared to probably the central business areas, right? Which is what will follow, because the social infra, if you actually look at it, people working in the knowledge sector economy end up earning the most. They're top of the chain, right? And naturally, people who earn more consume more. So they tend to migrate to areas where they can consume, where they need more recreational spaces like entertainment places, malls, schools, all of these sort of infrastructure. This infrastructure is relatively low in this area compared to other areas. That's why it's cheaper. Now with 45,000 jobs coming in, now some entrepreneur will realize, let me go put a restaurant, let me go run a school. Some
demand. We are all
demand,
right?
Of the demand. Yeah. So once all that infrastructure comes, then what happens? More and more people are, the demand for space goes up, then prices will shoot up much better. So think about this, wherever the rate of change of recreational, or what we call third space. See, in real estate, we define spaces into 3 spaces. First is the space where you live, that is your house. Second is where you work, which is your office. Third is your recreational place. Anything like, your park, entertainment places, temples, all of that are third spaces. Wherever the rate of change of third space is higher, those spaces, the property price moves a lot more. Which is again interdependent on this, but that's a good factor to look at. Rate of change of third space. Simply in terms of quantity. See, basically this is the best place to be in the world at this point of time. One, the Indian economy is opening up where we're growing at 7%, right? And then there is a demographic advantage versus Europe where the population is actually decreasing at a big time and most people are older. And from that line, we are at the best place, right place at the right time. So I hope we make the maximum out of it. We leave aside the what's in it for others wala mindset, which I presume big time with the leftist mindset. It doesn't matter what's in it for others. It's important what's in it for us. And we take choices in that direction.
I don't think after AI anyone's going to be poor in 10 years.
I also side with that, yeah. So of course, I don't know how jobs are going to change.
See, poor doesn't mean the amount of wealth, amount of cash you have. I think that's the mistake people make. They always look at, if you're making this much money, you're poor, or this. Even the stat we spoke about, right? 7,500, whatever.
Correct.
I like to look at it in terms of quality of life. Do you have roti, kapda? Like, think of the basics.
Correct.
Has this technology given you roti, kapda, makan, internet?
Sadak, pani, bijli and all of that.
And has it made your quality of life better? India is now electrified. Okay. you go 200 years in the past, the best kings didn't have electricity. They didn't have a TV. No matter how much wealth they had compared to everybody else, how much actual cash they had compared to everybody else, or whatever that
Quality of
currency
life was lower.
Yeah, quality was low. I think the poorest person today, who's not hungry, like I think
Yes,
malnourishment.
Yes, a hunger problem at a population scale.
Roti kapda
fairly
makan, right?
solved it,
I think
yes.
once roti kapda makan is done, I think the average person has a much better quality of life.
True.
Even your Zepto driver, you look at a Zepto driver, I think, no offense, but I think that the average Zepto driver or the average Uber driver or whatever still has a much higher quality of life than even the best kings back then.
Yes.
Right? They have electricity, they have entertainment on command with their phones, they have these cars, which sure might not be a Ferrari, but it's still something that's
Take them from point A to point
A,
B,
point A to
relatively
point
far
B.
more quicker, right, than chariots.
correct. And kings did travel back in the day, right? Like there's a lot of wars, this, that, there was so much horse riding. Like it's sure you can always look at it relative to others and say the software engineer still has a better life, or the software engineer can look at the entrepreneur and
But there's always, see, again, society, people have varied skills, and at different points of time, different skills get valued differently by the markets. So whoever probably has those skills or goes and acquires those skills, there will be that thing. But yeah, I think the average quality of life should be seen.
yeah, I think the average quality of life has gone up, and in 10 or 20 years, the average quality of life is going to go even better. With AI, you're going to have a robot at home. You're old, you're sick, the robot is going to take care of you, right? You're having medical issue, you can't afford surgery, the robot can do surgery on you, right? It is absolutely possible that it will be able to do this.
Okay.
Right?
Like what, you mean remote surgery or just a robot?
No, it's a real robot.
The robot can just
And
perform
yeah,
the-
it can perform
Oh,
surgery, of course.
interesting.
Like in 10 years, it's going to be smart enough to be, like it'll have not just the manual dexterity, but know exactly what to do in case you have a problem. Diagnostics will still be expensive, right? Because you still need to go to a hospital for an expensive MRI.
Don't you think some sort of, I don't know, these days those patches are coming, right? They can start monitoring a lot of things in
Yeah,
your
but
bloodstream.
if you have cancer, you still need to do a PET scan. Right? Like diagnostics will still be expensive, but in India, it's so much cheaper than the US. Like I feel like if you're having a medical issue, India is the best place to be.
Yeah, US for some reason. I mean,
It cost me like
for
crazy amount for blood
for a
test.
lot of things, US, I think the quality of life has decreased. And one big attribute, at least from a livability standpoint, they don't build anything. They barely build anything new, right? If you're not building anything, like for example, you take a look at Dubai, right? Dubai is building world-class infrastructure because it's modern, it's today. US had that in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and then for some reason they became, I don't want to build anything. Like anything. They become overly regulated and they don't build anything, and that's why the quality of life comes down. Like in US, let me share a small story, right? I stayed with my cousin in SFO, and then for like 1 week I didn't see any neighbors. I was like, kya hua bhai? Like, do nobody live in this neighborhood? Are people dead or what's happening? Why don't I see anybody? But you see the design, then I came out, I just walked around. The design of the plan was in such a way that your interaction with your neighbor is zero. Now, and whereas US is now struggling with loneliness and isolation. If you
And
can't
somewhere
even,
in SF got shot, the homeless people are all over the streets. Like
you know, all of this is happening, and in so many things, I don't think I think that the crown is over.
But I'm very thankful for social media, because without social media, like 20 years ago, it was always like US is perfect, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
It's like everything's amazing, and Friends. You only saw
Yeah,
TV shows.
yeah, exactly.
So it's
US
a
is
very
on the TV.
produced version of TV.
US
right?
is only on the TV. No, I think still in like cutting edge technology, they have the edge over the world.
Yeah.
But in a lot of other aspects, I think they've lost it. I mean, there's somebody or the other country which is doing better.
Yeah. I think India is a great place to be. India is just not pretty yet. Like when you walk down a street, in most places, it still feels
It'll
like
get over a period of time.
yeah, which is why I think real estate is so important. We always look down upon real estate, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Oh, he's a builder.
I keep saying in America, bankers at one point of time, now maybe it might change. In America, bankers and India builders are not respected.
Yeah.
Right? We are always at least in your movies, we and politicians are always the goondas.
But that's what I said. The 10 chains and I'm talking about the 10 chains based on some move. In every movie, you're represented like that, right?
Exactly. Right.
But here's the thing: on the real estate side, I think the minute you start making pretty things, like we learned this with videos, right? We used to do. I've done videos for 9 years. The minute we started making pretty videos, we started making these really pretty videos on this channel called AV, and then even on my channel, we really started upgrading the type of videos we made. It changed how people thought about us. Design and aesthetics are really how you build like something worth for other people to look at and be like, that's nice.
Yeah, aesthetics actually have that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think you have this great opportunity to make everything from the hospital to the the residents.
Residential to the parks.
And that's getting better, right? Like
Yeah,
the villas, villa places there.
Actually, also one more thing, Varun. See, what happens is real estate is a high capex industry, na? So India mein real estate has been heavily just because the market structure was hyper local. Then naturally the servers of that demand, that is the builders, right, also had to be hyper local. In hyper local, what happens? I understand the norms of, let's say, this Hebbal area. I understand the local politicians. See, again, politicians I'm not saying in a bad context here. They are important stakeholders because the land laws are governed by them. They frame the laws. Yeah. The bureaucracy, the politicians, they're all like required stakeholders. So what happened? I can only, because I know the laws here, I have the relationship, I could only serve to people in Hebbal area. Now, how am I going to get economies of scale? If I don't get, see, whatever research I do, if all I can do is serve maybe 100,000 people living in Hebbal, why would I even do it in the first place? You need scale, right? I do one research, one invention, and I can scale it for 1 million or 100 million people. Correct. So that has never happened in real estate, because of which you had many small companies. Let me share one interesting statistic. In China, they make close to 1 crore homes a year. Right? And majority of the demand is served by 15 to 20 developers. Right? Hence, you see the beautification of China which is happening, especially on social media. You see some of the places in Shanghai and Shenzhen and these cities, they're like, even like West is also left behind. That's how you see them, right? In India, you have like 5 lakh homes a year being built and 4 to 5 lakhs approximately, and that is served by almost 10,000 companies. So you have hundreds of minnow companies. Right? Let's say now if my balance sheet is small, thodi na ki I can go and develop a neighborhood, okay, develop a good park, good looking buildings also cost more, right? So now what's happening is because of RERA, like, more regulation coming in, better practices coming in, now the industry is consolidating. Now as a developer, if I invest in some idea and make some invention or make my supply chain better, reduce my cost, then I can serve, instead of 1 lakh people, I can serve 1 million people. So as that economies of scale comes in, then our R&D budgets also go up, and then not only R&D, even spending more on that particular aesthetics. Aesthetics costs a lot in real estate because it's a physical product. So all of that is going to happen.
Right. And it'll only work, the aesthetics will only work when there's demand for aesthetics.
Exactly.
Right? But I think now the demand, as India has more disposable income,
premiumization,
as the rich get richer, they want more pretty things. And I do firmly believe, and it also takes time.
Yeah, it takes time.
It takes 5 years, 6 years to build something. So I'm very, very bullish that India will also look pretty. Right? We have the, in my opinion, we have one of the best healthcares in the world. Yes. Right? And I've actually tried healthcare from different nations, right? And India has the best healthcare in the world. Trust me on this. India has probably, education system was the worst, but I think with AI, education system has changed, has overhauled. So it doesn't matter. Everyone has the same education system now. We all have YouTube now. Entertainment though is on par with the rest of the world, right? If you look at videos, and I was speaking to somebody from Vox the other day, right? Like, which used to produce one of the best videos in the US. They're like, the stuff you do with AVTV now is like kind of on par.
It's on par, competing with them.
It's on par with the best in the world. So, and you can take every segment, like Nikhil Kamath, for example, right? He's interviewing the guy from the Prime Minister of New Zealand, right, or something like that.
Yeah, recently,
right?
Last one. Yeah.
I don't know if there are any other billionaires in any other countries who are actively creating that much content.
That sort of content.
So it's become
a very vibrant.
It's vibrant. It's on par.
Super vibrant.
It's on par, right? And now India is going to do AAA games. So I think there's just so many things that that India is now getting on par with. Real estate, the aesthetics, it's still so far behind. And I just wish, there's some way to change that. And it's just amazing.
But I think it's something which is going to, for example, look at Sobo, like South Bombay. You're seeing some of the skyscrapers coming up there are world class. Like the tall, slender looking glass buildings with good looking crowns and all, that's bigger happening because naturally the market has reached there and developers are also.
And also information. Like you can now travel to the US, see the best building and study it and be like, I want to make this. And you have, by the way, I also underestimated how much money like the top people have in India. Like I always thought, see, that's the problem, right? When you have a certain circle and you see like videos saying someone making 20 lakhs an annum, 30 lakhs an annum, you think, okay, that's the richest person will have maybe 10x that.
Correct.
But in reality, the richest the rich people, the rich builders who can actually afford to build a building like that, who can go to the US, look at it and be like, we should build this, have thousands of crores,
Yeah.
right? Liquid. And I didn't know this. And I just didn't know how much wealth they were sitting on, but they were just afraid.
See, one thing with India is the policy regulation, right? You have policies changing frequently because real estate is very, very interlinked with government. Whenever there's a change in government, then there's a change in direction, right? Change in the way land gets used, change in certain policies, right? So that is a real big problem. Imagine, like, see, let's say in all other areas, you're making a product and the consumer is buying, and the entire life cycle is maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. In real estate, we need to invest a lot of money before something happens. That's why you don't have neighborhood scale developments. By neighborhood scale, like you let's take a look in Dubai, right? Most of your subscribers would be privy to Burj Khalifa, right? One of the tallest, I think the tallest building in the world. That entire area is around 4, 5 or maybe 1,000 acres, developed only by Emaar. Right? That is the reason they were able to develop a good-looking mall, in fact, the building came in the end. The Burj Khalifa didn't come first. It was the Dubai Mall, and you see that entire creek is very well done. So India mein na, that scale developers are not there because we don't have the balance sheets. We were never allowed to grow to that extent because of
Why?
policy.
What did they cut?
Because of the policy. Suddenly, let's say now I went and acquired 400-500 acres of land in one place, and some policy changed. It has happened several times in the past, but policy change, matlab, let's say suddenly maybe I could build 30 floors and now it's cut down to 10 floors. What happens to the value of my land? Right? It was residential zone, suddenly they made it into some industrial zone. What happens then? There was a road going this way, hence I bought, now the road is changed. What happens then? So, because of which buying land, big land parcels, developers are now moving away. In fact, all the developers, take a look at 2007-8 pay, the developers who are number 1, number 2 in the country, like the top breed, a lot of them are bankrupt today. Because the government's changed, then the next set of government came up with different rules. I'm not telling this government is bad or that government is bad. But what I'm saying is if you need better quality of life, you need consistent policy. And always, again, I'm not saying all builders are good. Builders also have their fair share of mistakes in this. But the builder always gets blamed, not the government.
I have one last question. And this question is around ASBL, right? Like, I know you guys are Hyderabad based. Give me some highlights of how ASBL has been sort of growing over the last few years. And then also tell me, and this question I ask everybody, right? Give me one insight you have that nobody in real estate believes you on.
Okay.
Like something that you're completely taking the opposite stance to your industry.
Okay, I'll answer that upfront. Don't buy land.
Okay.
For a developer, it's ultra waste. Don't buy land.
For a developer.
I'm telling purely from a developer.
Okay.
Let me digress that a little bit. So essentially what we have realized is whenever we buy land, either we fund it with equity or we fund it with debt. Right? Most of the debt to buy land comes at 18% cost. Equity is a little more costlier, let's assume 24, but 18 to 24 is your cost. What we have seen is no land appreciates for 18% on a 10-year scale. It's very, very impossible to hit those lands. So that's one key USP of ASBL is we are purely a customized manufacturing company. Why I say customized is depending on the micro market we are building, the product changes. We are not a mass manufacturing company. Mass manufacturing company, you got one product and you're building it everywhere. So we are a custom manufacturing company. So we're taking at the micro market, the customer is going to stay. We change the product category, design, build, all designs we do. So design, build and dispatch. So for us, land is like a raw material, just like steel and cement. Have you seen anybody holding cement? Nobody does. For us, land is same. And if you actually plot data together and see, right, in fact, all the developers who have sort of built land banks on a 10 to 20 year scale really struggled. All developers struggled. People, for some reason, I also don't know why, if you're a developer, there's an intrinsic fetish towards land. I see that in my dad also. In fact, the only place where we bought some land for future, that was because of his push. I keep telling him that I'm going to extract some tax from him. But yeah, so that is one big insight what we gained over my 10 years of practice.
So how much does ASBL actually manage right now?
See, from a operations perspective, we are operating around 8.5 million square feet. So that's put around 4,000 homes, right? Around 30% of it is delivered and we're managing the facilities. 70% of it, I would say 60% of it is under construction. 10% is just breaking ground. In the next couple of years, another 5 to 7 million square feet is what we are adding. So if you put in, like every year now, we are sort of adding around 2,000 to 2,500 homes, to our portfolio.
And do you have plans to come to Bangalore?
Absolutely. We are very hungry to be in all the major cities, particularly Bangalore being the first, because it's sort of your TG is similar to Hyderabad. Like a lot of tech professionals are our customers, and Bangalore is the hub for tech professionals, right? Slightly ahead of Hyderabad. So yes, but we are like that's the reason we have closely studied this area, the Sebal and North Bangalore area. That's
so
why
if you're doing something here, we should, like I told you, we should do.
I would love to.
Telling you offline, we would love to take a couple of acres and figure out how we can do.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, but yeah, I think we want to list our company, go IPO in maybe 2-3 years. Post that, we'll have sufficient capital to come to other cities.
How much do you plan to raise?
We don't know, probably around 1,000 crore. See, we do, like last year we did around 1,000 crore worth of net sales. This year we should probably on trajectory to double it. So yeah, given that, I think depending on the markets.
So this year you'll do about 2,000 crores in sales?
Yes, this year. Net sales, that's what we're looking at. Because we've already done close to 1,000, so we've got a good launch so far. I mean,
in what way is Hyderabad different from Bangalore in real estate?
See, affordability, man. Like Hyderabad is way more affordable than Bangalore. I'll give you some statistics, right? So from a lifestyle perspective, let's diagnose into how much does it cost to go out. Like when you go out, what do you do? Typically entertainment or eating, right? So for a family, for 2 people, eating out in Bangalore is around 1,800 to 2,000. In Hyderabad, it's 1,200. Of course, that's a small thing. Let's put that aside. What does it cost to get your kid a good education? Let's assume an IB school, right? In Bangalore, Hyderabad, it's around around 2 lakh rupees is what it costs. Bangalore, it's around 3.5 lakhs. So that way, again, it's higher. Let's say you are renting an apartment in probably the closer to city center. For a 3-bedroom, Hyderabad, it costs you 50,000. Bangalore, it's around 65-70,000. Let's take, for example, to buy, right? If you're buying in, like, again, closer to city center, Hyderabad is 10K, Bangalore is 18K, 18 to 20K. So affordability is where Hyderabad is way better. And even urban mobility. The amount of time you can cover, amount of distance you can cover in an hour. In Bangalore is one of the, everybody knows Bangalore traffic. It's actually, after Kolkata, I think it's the worst in the country. Hyderabad is the best in the metro. Only Delhi has gotten better. Before even Hyderabad was better than Delhi also, but now Delhi has gotten slightly better. So urban mobility, and biggest thing, water infrastructure. So what many people don't realize is that a big part of city urban life is piped water. That is not drilling borewells, but piped water. Bangalore ka pura, whatever the metro water board supplies 1,400 million liters per day. Hyderabad is 2,600. Population same 13 million here. So you just see, I get to have double more water than what people in Bangalore have. And even coverage wise, they have water pipeline which covers for 575 square kilometer, Hyderabad 1,400 square kilometers. So, and yeah, I think the last one is pretty much the same. From safety and security, especially safety to women, I think pretty much we are both cities are roughly the same. Why I think that's important? Because when there's particular safety emphasis on women, then women participation in labor workforce is high.
Correct.
Then the household becomes a double income household. Double income household, your wealth goes up much faster. Most likely you will be in the top 5 percentile of the society. I mean, frankly, to be one of the tidbit to be in the top 5 percentile of the society, 5 to 7 percentile of the society is having a double income household. So when a city provides better infrastructure, better safety protocols for women, the women participation in labor workforce goes up. So these are all the things where Hyderabad is better. But of course, there are certain aspects where Bangalore is still ahead. Like the quality of tech talent, especially senior level tech talent, Bangalore is way ahead. Bangalore has much bigger and established startups compared to Hyderabad. Hyderabad has very good infrastructure like T-Hub for that. But still, I think the startups have we need to get those big bang hits so that the ecosystem builds out. But yeah, each city has their own advantages. But yeah, if you can even look at Hyderabad, I can get you the 3 acres.
No. I'm a Bangalore boy. And my entire team is here. So for the entire 3 acres for us is to move our teams, put it together.
all your entire
We have 25,000 square foot here right now in this office, but we need 3 acres at the rate we're growing. So,
okay, that's nice. It's good to hear that. Yeah.
So this was a very cool conversation. I had a lot of fun. I didn't feel like 2 hours passed or 1 hour passed. I have no idea how much time has passed. I'm definitely going to get you on again a few years later to talk about how the last 3 years, 4 years have been. But thank you so much for doing this. And for those of you that want to check it out, go check out ASBL. I'll link in the comments just to make your life easier. But this has been awesome. Thank you so much.